All right, I say we go ahead and get this going. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to be talking about our Master of Visual Communication Design program. We'll start off with some introductions. So today on this webinar, we've got Al Sanft. He's the program head for Visual Communication Design. We've got Mauricio Mejía, who is an associate professor in the VCD program. And then my name is Christy Brown. I am a graduate coordinator. I am the person, along with my teammate who's not here right now. Her name is Corey Cisco, but you may have communicated with her. We will help you through the application process, and then once you're a student, we'll help you throughout your whole program. So I'll turn it over to Al. One quick note before I do though, any questions we're gonna address at the end. So if you can put those in the Q&A, we will make sure to address all of those at the very end of the presentation. So Al, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Christy. My name is Al Sanft, Program Head for Visual Communication Design, and certainly welcome you to this informational webinar about the Master of Visual Communication Design, and hope that you're all safe and well wherever you are. And we have a number of people, and I see a few of them already are from Tempe, but I imagine that some of you are from out of state, and so we welcome you. Allow me to introduce Dr. Mauricio Mejía. He's been introduced already, but he teaches in the Master of Visual Communication Design program. And so he's going to lead out in terms of our presentation, in terms of what to expect, and then some of the advantages of coming to our program and how it can help you in the future. So Mauricio, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Christy and Al. I appreciate your introductions. I hope everyone attending this webinar is well too. So let me, Christy, can you go to the next slide? So I am going to talk a little bit about what the Masters of Visual Communication Design is about, and how we see master's level education, and how we plan to do coursework and projects and skills and all of that. So the first thing I want to say is that, of course, we focus on visual communication. So we want to develop skills in aesthetics, information, communication, visual appeal. That's a priority that we have, of course, and we want to make sure that our graduates develop these skills, because that's a core element of what the industry is expecting from designers, and a master's in visual communication design should master aesthetics, visual appeal, communication. One important thing is that we decided a few years ago to expand the idea of graphic design to visual communication design, to include this concept of communication. So we have to, we want to make sure that as we are creating visual information and graphics, there is effective communication in our graduates, of course. Can you move to the next, Christy, please? So a second element that is part of our focus in the Masters is human experiences. We think that that element is essential also, as many of the problems that visual communication designers address are related to how users or people or stakeholders in general are affected by this communication, or by other types of artifacts in visual communication design and related disciplines. We think that human experience are fundamental too. So we reflect and include in the studio and in the projects elements like cognition, human emotion. And that is another factor here, that is technology. So as many of the visual communication design pieces and artifacts are now including technology, digital technologies, or Internet of Things, or artificial intelligence. So there is an increasing need to address cognition, emotion, and human experience in general, and to make sure that what we design, many of these visual pieces, what people see is important, and we want to make sure that there is a visual appeal and good aesthetics and attractive pieces, but we also want to make sure that they are usable. The human experience with these visual pieces are also effective from the human experience part. Can we go to the next slide, please, Christy? And then we have a strategy. So as we are here talking about a master's program, we also make emphasis in a strategy.
I think he's frozen. Al, are you also frozen?
No,
I just want to make sure.
no, I just wasn't moving.
Okay.
Okay, so okay, back.
Oh,
There he is.
okay. For how long I was out?
You just started strategy.
Okay, good. So for the strategy, so just to recap, I talk about visual communication, human experience, and now I am talking about the strategy, which is a third element that we address in the masters. And talking about the strategy, we want the students and the graduates to know that there is business value when they are designing things. So it's this idea that when you're designing something, you are not just responding to what, I don't know, a manager or a client asks you to do, but you also participate in the business strategy or the social change strategy, because this could be also for governments or for nonprofits. So we expect that at the master's level, students have a strategic focus too. So it's not just about thinking about the final artifact, and it's very important that that the visual communication and the human experience are really good and really effective, but we also want to participate in the strategic process and the decision making at the master's level. So for that, we use different tools. Here in the image, we have a customer journey map, but it could be, we use many tools in the studio, like the service blueprint or storyboards, role playing. And all of these tools are about using design in a strategic way. Of course, it's very important that the visual communication is effective, but we also want to develop these strategic thinking skills. So designers are in a position when they graduate in having dialogue and negotiations with key stakeholders. Like, if you are working in-house, it could be, I don't know, somebody in marketing, it could be a manager, it could be, if you are working as independent designers. So when you talk with your client, you have a strategic vision and you are able to help the client make strategic decisions. And that might lead to different outcomes in the design process. So a client might think that they need a poster or a website, but then you can help them figure it out, what is the right media, even just expand the problem from traditional design artifacts to more strategic artifacts like service concepts or user experience concepts and other strategic outcomes. Can we go next, Christy, please?
Yes.
So in this slide, I am just trying to illustrate how we see this expansion. So again, this is a Master of Visual Communication Design. It's the core of what we do, but we want at this master's level to help graduates to expand their visual communication design practice and include human experience and strategy. So being more prepared to work with other stakeholders in the design process, to work with, other professionals, work with business partners, work with, if it's a social issue, work with different types of clients. And one important thing here is that there is a transdisciplinary attitude to be able to take visual communication design into a more strategic level of practice. And let's stay in the previous one, because I want to mention, sorry, yeah, I know I made a pause there, but I just want to say that that we have worked with in a studio, which is the core of our program, and we have other important courses, of course. But in the studio, all of us, I teach one studio right now, and there are other, of course, we have Daniel, Michelle, and others that teach studios. And what we are doing right now, and what we are planning to do, of course, in the future, is to do more real world projects. So just to illustrate how we do this, I have some examples of partners that we have collaborated with in the past, like Downtown Phoenix Inc., the Maricopa County. For example, for the Maricopa County, we did a service design project in improving interfaces for the permit process in the county. We work with the Phoenix Convention Center to help improve the experience process for event planners working with the convention center. We have worked with also nonprofits like Roosevelt Row in downtown Phoenix, the Grand Avenue Festival. I have a list, here, because it's not only me, but also the other structures. We also partner with some units inside ASU, not as much as external partners, but we also partner with, for example, the Hydration Science Lab, proposing design solutions to problems related to health or sustainability and other things. Christy, now we can move to the next one. So I just cluster here some of the emerging design practices. Again, we are preparing visual communication designers, but visual communication designers are able also to work with these emerging design practices, which, if you see job posts in anywhere, there are so many companies looking for these emergent professionals. And we try to develop that also in our studios and in our program. So you see things like interaction design, information design, service design, UX design, sustainable design, design for social innovation. These are type of practices that our faculty is interested in, and we want to help the students to develop the skills on this. And there are opportunities to focus a little bit more or less in some of these, because there are, electives, and there are opportunities to participate in projects with faculty, and you can also develop your interest in the last year in the program with the capstone project. Let's go to the next, Christy, please. So I have here just an image to explain what are the core skills that we develop. So one of them is the critical thinking. And I think this is really important at a master's level. In the undergrad, of course, we also try to develop critical thinking in the students. But of course, we want at the undergrad level to improve how graduates are prepared for the workplace. In the master levels, I think, or we think that critical thinking is fundamental, because if you're a master's of design, you are better at critiquing work, are posing questions, are assessing how the evidence available is useful in a particular problem. and being able just to assess situations and make sure that you make the right decisions in a process. Another core skill is design research, which is basically the ability to gather insights in the design process. So, and this has become very popular in the industry. So I mean, it could be interviews, but it could be usability testing, it could be focus groups, it could be user shadowing, observing people, and we develop these skills in the masters, and we, I mean, in the studio projects, we are always trying to develop these activities. So the design outcomes are really powerful and persuasive for the clients. Another skill is visualization, which is, I mean, if you are talking about a master's of visual communication design, of course you want to be good at visualizing, but we take at the master level this idea of visualization as a skill where you can be very clear and can make sense of complex information and be able to visualize this complex information in something that is easy for people to process and understand. And the last one that I have is envisioning proposals for complex problems. So in that case, as we set up the projects in the studios, we are more interested in a higher complexity of the problems. So we expect that we are not just thinking about specific elements of the design, like which are really important. I mean, specific elements could be composition or the communication of some content, but we also hope to see students to see the broader context of the problems. So it could be who are the stakeholders, what is the actual situation of communication. So this is related to research and design research and being able to understand the complexity of the situation. Christy, please go to the next. So these are some examples of masters of visual communication design careers. Of course, we have the visual communication designer, but we also aim to develop skills so graduates are more prepared to take some leadership positions like creative lead, and also emerging practices, as I have said, like UX design, design manager, interaction designer, strategy designer. So many possibilities, and I have to say this career list might be longer if you look at what is the demand in the industry. These are some names, but we are very interested in those emergent industry possibilities, and we are always trying to see what is happening and also anticipating what is going to be expected from designers in the future, and we try to anticipate those and develop or prepare the students for those careers. I have one there in the last one, design educator. We assume that some of you might be interested in teaching, not right away, maybe after the masters, maybe in the future. So I just want to highlight that the MBCD is a terminal degree in the field of design. So you can get any education position with an MBCD degree. So I think that's very important to highlight for some of you that might be interested in teaching after the masters or later in your careers. Let's go to the next, please, Christy. So I have here some of the pictures of MBCD faculty. So the first one there is Danielle Fouché. That's a picture of myself in the middle. Michelle Feller. We are right now the studio faculty members, and others have taught also in our studios. please click on the nest and you are going to see Al, Andy, who are plus year for those interested in the 3+ program. They also teach studios in the program. And Patrick also in the bottom, but and the last two are Eric Montgomery and Lisa Peña. They also offer some elective studios and additional classes in the masters. And there are more. There are also possibilities to take classes with other faculty in the design school and outside of the design school. And I think that's the last slide from me. Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you so much. So I'm just going to kind of run over all of the programs that we offer here at the design school. So we have both studio-based programs and research-based programs. As I'm going through this, just a note, you'll see the 2-year and the 3-year pathways listed. Generally, the 2-year pathways are for students who have an undergraduate degree in the field that they plan on studying for their master's degree. So if it's Master of Architecture, they have a bachelor's degree in architecture. The 3-year pathway, or the 3+ pathway, that's for students who are coming from a background that's unrelated. So you might have a degree in English or in math. So it's anything that's unrelated, you would go into that 3-year, the 3+. So we have the Master of Architecture program, which is STEM designated, the Master of Interior Architecture program. We have the Master of Industrial Design, which is also STEM designated, the Master of Landscape Architecture, which is STEM designated, and they also have a 2+ pathway, which is for students who have a somewhat related degree to landscape architecture. So maybe they have a bachelor's degree in architecture and planning, they would go into the 2+ program. There's a Master of Science in Innovation and Venture Development, which is STEM designated. This is a new program that we just launched this year in partnership with W.P. Carey School of Business and the Fulton Schools of Engineering. The Master of Urban Design, of course, the Master of Visual Communication Design. And then in our research-based programs, we have the Master of Science in Architecture, which is STEM designated, the Master of Science in Design with concentrations in Industrial Design, Interior Design, and Visual Communication Design, and our PhD in Design, Environment, and the Arts. So ASU is #1 in the US for renovation. You may have seen this posted all over. This is a point of pride for us. What this means for you is that there's just a lot of opportunity here at ASU to study what you want to study. So there's a lot of things going on campus, lots of new research, lots of exciting, new projects, research going on. So whatever you want to study, there's something here. We absolutely encourage cross-disciplinary studies. So if you want to take classes in School of Sustainability, you absolutely can do that. Or maybe it's in real estate development or business school. We encourage that. So the application process, there's two applications that you have to fill out. So the first one is to the ASU Graduate College. This is an application that all students at ASU who want to study in a graduate degree, they have to fill out. So it's pretty generic. It's going to be just kind of your basic information about yourself, previous education history. You will go ahead and upload your unofficial transcripts with this application. And if you are accepted, you will have to send official transcripts at that time. And then international students will have to submit proof of English proficiency, and GRE scores are only required for select programs. That's the Master of Science in Architecture program and the PhD. The other application, the slide room application, this one is more specific to the design school. This is what the admissions committees are really going to be looking at when they're evaluating you. So you will have a portfolio. If you are applying to one of the 3-year or 3+ programs, again, you don't have a background in design. A note about this, you will still need to submit a portfolio, but it doesn't have to be a traditional design portfolio. So the committees are really looking to just get to know you and where your creativity lies. So you might do photography in your free time, or maybe you draw or paint, or you refinish furniture, or really anything that's creative. That's what you can use in the portfolio. We also just did a webinar on the portfolio. So if anyone's interested, I will put in the chat when we get to the Q&A time, the link to the that webinar. You'll also need to submit a statement of purpose and the email addresses for 2 recommenders. You just submit their name and the email address, and the system will automatically send them an email with a link to upload the recommendation for you. We're in the middle of the admissions cycle right now. Our priority deadline is January 15th. This is the important deadline that you need to get your application in by if you want to be considered for funding opportunities that we have through the recruitment process. So since we have plenty of time, I recommend getting it in by January 15th. So this is contact information for myself and my counterpart, Corey. So our email addresses are listed there and our phone numbers. Designgrad@asu.edu, though, is the email address that I always recommend students use rather than our individual ones, just because we both monitor that account. So if someone's out of the office or in a meeting, your email will still get looked at by one of us. And then once we're back in person, we're in the College of Design, room 162. These are our social media handles. I recommend you check us out, see what kind of current projects students are working on, different events that we have going on at the school. We'll kind of get a feel for the environment here. And now we're here at questions. So please put your questions in the Q&A so that we can answer all of those. And I will be listing the link to the webinar page where we've got all the different webinars, including that portfolio one, in the chat right now. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing our screen just so we can answer questions. So if we don't have any questions yet, I'm sure there's some to come.
I wonder, Christy and Al, if I didn't explain much the difference between the 2-year program and the 3+ program, but I'm not sure if the attendees are interested in one of those 2 particular programs.
She is.
Oh, okay.
Did you say, wait, where did you see that?
Well, I've talked to Ms. Estrada a number of times.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Just to kind of, it looks like we do have a question here, but just to kind of address the 2+ versus the 3-year, or sorry, the 2-year versus the 3+. Like I said, the 3+ is for students who are coming in from any other background. You will have an additional year and a summer semester. You'll start in the summer term, which is kind of your crash course in design. And then you'll take some undergraduate level courses in that first year, in addition to the graduate level studios that effectively catch you up to those students who did have a bachelor's degree in visual communication design or graphic design. Do you have anything else to kind of add to that, either of you?
That was perfectly said.
Perfect. So our first question here, can you explain how is the transdisciplinary focus? Will we work with students from other fields? I'll pass that on to one of you.
That's a good question. And I would say that in general, the studios only have Masters of Visual Communication Design students. So it's not that we are going to have students from other disciplines taking our studios or anything like that. When I mentioned, and I think I said the word transdisciplinary just because how we set up the live projects and the clients or the partners for the studios and how we expect the students to address the projects in the studios are more transdisciplinary. And that means that we are not just focusing on the visual communication component, but trying to see the visual communication design problem in a broader perspective. So for example, just to give an example more concrete, is when we had the hydration science lab working in the studio. So hydration science had an idea of, they wanted to come up with an intervention to help children in schools drink more water. So we had a professor from the College of Health visiting the class a few times, and this idea of transdisciplinarity is that designers not just have to focus on or just be limited to issues of design, but also how their design proposals are also considering health issues. So having this professor from health visiting the class made them think about how they can design something better, not just as a design piece, but as something that has an application in health. So that's an example. So also when we work with the Finnish Convention Center, they have an experience design problem. So it was not just about designing, I don't know, a better wayfinding or a better flyer or a better catalog for the Finnish Convention Center, but just realizing that they had to know about marketing, they had to know about the business value of the Finnish Convention Center, so they could design. At the end, they design interactive applications, they design some printed media, but they were more aware of the transdisciplinary issues that they were addressing in the project. So they had to know a little bit about business, marketing, user experience to be able to propose those visual communication design solutions. So that's the idea of the transdisciplinary focus, is that we want the students to expand their thinking, be more focused on human experience, more focused on a strategy. So the visual communication design proposals have better impact and better value for the clients.
So the second part of the question is, will we work with students from other fields? And I think Mauricio explained from the studio, you do have a class that's called Principles of Collaboration in Design. It's taught by Will Haywood, which is also from BCD, and all the graduate students are in that class. And so you will, rub shoulders with those other disciplines. He does have projects, but they're not studio type projects. But you will get to know them, other students from other programs in that particular class and other electives that you might take.
Another question, what kind of adjustments have been made due to COVID, and is there a chance there will be more adjustments?
That's tough, so I'm going to let Al respond to that one.
Well, I think the main adjustment is that I think we found that we can actually be quite successful in a studio environment, even though we're not necessarily on campus. With ASU Sync, there is possibilities actually to be on campus. And so we have ASU set up some pretty good protocols. In fact, every day we have to send in a health check, which helps the university kind of track where issues are. And so it asks whether you're doing work for ASU and will you be on campus. And if you are, they have a number of questions to make sure that you're healthy. So I've been on campus a couple of times with my students, and then most of it will actually happen remotely. But for those that want to be on campus right now, ASU is really done a pretty good job by keeping some of those numbers down. It's impossible to keep them totally out of ASU, but so far, we didn't suffer some of the major issues that other universities had at the beginning of when we started. Will there be more adjustments? Hopefully for the positive, if we're good. I think it's really up to us to make this thing work. But so far, I think Sync is working at ASU, where those that want to be on campus can be, and for those that shouldn't be, I think there's a safe environment that you should be at home, that you can still learn the things that you need to. And so I think we've been fairly successful. Do I have a crystal ball to know if there'll be more adjustments? No, but we're hoping that we can continue with Sync and have students in person that want to be.
Yeah, and kind of adding on to, the app that's so great at keep tracking symptoms, making people aware of their symptoms. We also have an amazing testing system on campus. So anyone who wants to get a COVID test can go and get one. I've done it multiple times and it is so fast. It's very easy. The results are always out within 20, usually it's around 24 hours. They promise you within 48. So that's something that's a nice benefit of being at ASU is easy access to testing. Any other questions? Did we cover it all so well?
I would ask my students, clear as mud.
There is another question in the chat.
Oh, is there? Oh, good. What are the courses for the first year of the 3+ year program look like? So like I mentioned, there are undergraduate level classes in addition to the studio, but I'll let you, one of you kind of give some more details as to what's covered in those classes.
Okay. So as Christy mentioned at the beginning, there's a 10-week kind of boot camp for during the summer that kind of covers the fundamentals. And then there's a graduate level studio that in the fall that you begin with. And so you're with your cohort that you start with during the summer. And then there are other undergraduate courses that have that you join with to kind of build your skills up. So then within that first year, you're able then to survive. So it's technology and design, and then some history courses to make sure that you have a background to know where graphic design came from. There are exhibit design courses that you will have. So it's really that first year is to build up your skills so that you will then join the new cohort the following year that comes in with degrees in design. And so our job is to get you to the point that you feel comfortable and can be successful by learning those skills in that first year with all the different courses that you have.
So what does double majoring look like? So I can talk about this a little bit. So with graduate degrees, we actually refer to this as concurrent degrees. So you're getting 2 grad degrees at the same time. Typically what we recommend is that if you're going into a 2-year program, you start the first fall semester of the primary program. So say that's the MVCD program. You apply during that fall semester to your concurrent degree. So by the time you would be accepted and ready to start the concurrent degree, you will have completed your first full year of the MVCD program. You then pause the MVCD, you do a year of the concurrent degree, and then your final year is where you combine the 2, and that's where you can share credits. So it's a really great opportunity for students to increase their marketability after they graduate. Having the 2 degrees, and you get to share 20% of the credits between the 2 programs. So that saves you time and money and tuition dollars rather than if you were to do them one after the other. If you're going into a 3+ program, you would have your first full year of the 3+ program under your belt before you would again apply during the fall semester of your second year. So you will have completed at that point the first 2 years of the 3+ program, pause it, do the first year of that concurrent program, and then again combine. And the reason we do this is we want to make sure that you are successful in the primary program before you start adding classes in the secondary program. And also some of the classes might work kind of with one another. And so you don't want to just pick and choose classes from each program. Some of them, you want to be taking all of those classes and kind of devoting yourself to that program before you start adding something different. Got a couple more minutes if we have any last minute questions. Oh, talk about the internship in teaching design. Do one of you want to take that, or do you want me to, are we talking about just internships? I'm assuming just general internships for the program? Or
Well,
this class?
I can take that in terms of, first of all, so in the final year. For those that don't have a degree in graphic design, it's good to at least know what the industry has, and so an internship in the field is really advisable, so that you have some idea of what goes on in the studio or in an in-house or in whatever capacity. And so for those that already have a degree in design, that can be waived, but the hours are still required in terms of that internship. And so we used to have a class in terms of the internship in teaching, and that is that you would shadow one of the professors for a semester, so that you can have an understanding of what it's like to teach at the university level. And so we have a number of different ways to that was always good. And what we had is that you had to actually then present in that particular class something about that you had researched in your studio. So that really covers two. One was a class in terms of teaching, and the other is the internship out in the field. And so that internship required 200 hours of interning at a particular place. And so it wasn't just any place, it had to be somewhere where you would be mentored by somebody that was actually a director of some sort, so that it was good mentorship, so that you could understand what the field had to offer. And so those are the two ways two different things in terms of that question.
And just to piggyback off of speaking about the internship, we host a studio night event in the spring semester. So typically students will do their internship in the summer before their final year, and we will host a studio night event in the spring semester prior to that summer, where we invite design professionals from all over the Valley, various firms, to come and meet our students. Before pre-COVID, this was in person. It was a fun event. Students would be in their studios with their portfolios, and then the professionals would walk around and meet the students. And it was just a nice networking event, kind of just light networking event with food and drinks. And then this year we're going to be doing that virtually through our Handshake platform. So we'll have firms from all over the country, hopefully, be able to participate in this. So we're going to still be able to support our students in that way and helping them get that internship. I really hope you can't hear my dog, who's in the background making a lot of noise and distracting me. Any other questions? All right, I say we go ahead and we'll end it. We're at the time. If anyone has any other additional questions, you are absolutely welcome to email designgrad@asu.edu. We are happy to help in any way. Thank you so much for joining us, to my fellow panelists and to everyone who was able to call in. So any other final words?
You know, it's you'd think that this would be maybe the worst time to come to school at this time, but I see this as really an opportunity. I think this type of learning and teaching has changed the way that we kind of deliver information. And I think when you're here, you might think that you're kind of the guinea pig coming in, but in another sense is that you will learn how to then function within this kind of new environment that we're in. And I think that's really an advantage that you have. And so you could wait till everything becomes normal. Well, I don't think there is a normal anymore. I think this is part of the new normal that we come into. And so by being really at the forefront of trying to understand how to deal with this new way of communication, I think is really an advantage. And I know that, and that's a personal opinion. I don't, again, don't have a crystal ball, but I think the more that you learn how to deal with this going into the future, which I think is not going to change a lot, but we'll have a new normal. But that's just my opinion.
Well said.
And good luck.
Great. All right. Mauricio, were you going to say something?
No, I just want to say thank you for attending, and looking forward to meet you if you decide to get into the program.
Wonderful. Thank you all again. Stay safe and healthy. Happy holidays. We're moving into that season. So have a good evening.